We got this.
We got this.
It's a shipwreck, but we can salvage this.
It is salvageable. Don't worry.
Give me a wrench. I need a wrench.
きっと約束だよいつかまた同じ笑顔で
Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode of the Annie Chat Box.
What episode?
I am your...
What episode? What episode is it, Jen?
Episode 12.
Okay.
We're a tween, and we're going to be a teenager soon. We're growing up so fast.
We are. Anyway, so today I am playing as host. My second time as host. And today I am joined by our producer, Cassie.
I'm dead on the inside right now.
And I am also joined by Craig.
I don't get a title.
I don't get a title.
I don't get any. Craig.
Sorry, I had a complete blank just then. I was like, I need
and
to
we're
say
joined
something.
by what's your name again?
We're joined by Craig. Hello. Craig.exe is not responding to...
I'm sorry.
Craig.exe, not responsive, must reboot system. Please insert girder. Hello. Hi. How are you? You said... Daijobu. It'll be Daijobu, Joestar. You got this.
And I am John. Jonathan Joestar, as everyone calls me here. Anyway, before we get started with the episode, I would like to remind you all that you can find us on Twitter through twitter.com/theanniechatbox. You can also contact us by email at anniechatmail@gmail.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn now, because that's a thing. And of course, you can also find us on YouTube, which is where most of us have been following us. But yeah, more places.
The more the merrier. More devices for other voices to grace your eardrums. Oh yeah.
Easier for you to listen to us while driving around, if that is your thing, because apparently that is a thing. People listening to podcasts while traveling from place to place. Commuting, that's the word.
Yeah.
So, on to today's topic, I guess would be next step, which is how much violence is too much violence for you when you watch anime? Or has there ever been a gory show that you have loved? Why or why not?
Well, I was about to say,
basically, we're going from one extreme to another. It's like last week we talked about fan service and why people like it, because there are some people who love fan service and what our opinions on it were. And now we're talking about basically gore porn and who loves it and why. And if we are one of those people or not, and why not, which would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people point out how much people love violence, which is a very big thing in anime, and sometimes can go a little over the top, just like we can have over the top fan service. So, should be interesting.
True dat. Cass, do you want to start that off since you were talking just now?
Wow, thanks, bro.
Hey, I could have
fair. Okay, fine. What do you got?
But, well, now we've
Jeez.
kind of kicked Cassie out the gate.
And
So...
I just threw me in front of the bus, like, oh, we know Cassie's tired and not feeling well. Let's make her go first.
I need the energy, the passion. I need that passion fruit.
Alright, I can go first.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just here.
There's actually one kind of interesting thing. When it comes to horror movies, because I do occasionally watch those, even though I'm terrible with horror, I can't stand gore. Like, in any kind of real footage of it, I cannot stand gore. Like, I can't stand certain types of gore, rather. I'm fine with, like, dismemberment, but certain, like, breaking bones.
Oh yeah, the crunch. Like you can hear the
crunch,
you can hear the visceral bits of it.
That part of it I can't stand. And there's certain other bits of gore, but generally I'm fine with dismemberment. But anything beyond that is just like no.
If it's drawn out, then it's like instantly no, rather than a quick execution or like the guy gets his head lopped off and then they fall down.
But I don't have. It's not as big an issue when it's in anime or in games, I find. There's still sometimes where anime has kind of like maybe got, oh, okay, stop. And I've looked away. But it's few and far between when it comes to that in anime, and I have watched some very, very violent scenes in some anime, and while I won't exactly say I was okay with watching it, it still got a reaction out of me. It just wasn't as bad a reaction as it would have been had it been a live action scene instead.
There's a disconnect since it's like a 2D animation versus like a realistic 3D. Like that's one of the reasons why like I can't watch any of the Saw movies. I saw like one or two of them, and it was gut wrenching to the point where it's like I can't watch, even though they supposedly got way more cheesy as the torture porns got like further down the line. It was still kind of like, wow, that guy has to fucking like kill himself or dismember himself in order to get a key, in order to get out the door. No, thank you.
Yeah, Saw is one of those series that I was just like, the moment I heard about it, I was like, no, I'm not going to be able to sit through even one of that. So no thank you when it comes to that. So there's that side of it. But as for somewhere that I will draw the line, I have never had any desire to watch Corpse Party.
Oh boy.
And I've seen far too many clips of that as it is, and I know I will not be able to watch that because there's one particular clip, two particular clips from Corpse Party that I remember seeing, and both of them I'm just like, oh no, fuck no, don't, why am I seeing this kind of thing? And one involves a tongue being cut off.
Yikes.
And I think the other involved an eye. I'm actually kind of blanking on it now.
Lovely. And what was the purpose behind these mutilations? Was there a driving force behind it, or just for shits and giggles?
I don't know. I just know that I saw it thanks to trying to beta test an edit of someone's, and I was like, please don't make me beta test anymore.
No more, white flag, I can't do this. Cass, you tried reading the manga of that, right?
Oh yeah, and it made me sick. I can't do Corpse Party either.
I've only heard that it's been like a video game, and it's been all over the handhelds, and
well, it was originally a video game.
Right.
So of course it's going to be on video game consoles because that's where it started. It's had multiple different manga iterations, and I believe an anime at one point as well. But I can't handle Corpse Party either. There is an anime that I really love, though, that a lot of other people can't handle, and that's Higurashi no Naku Kuroni. Like, I fucking love that show. It's one of my favorites of all time. Not because of the gore, obviously, but the first season is nothing but a bunch of very intense situations. People getting their nails ripped off, people being stabbed to death, shoved off bridges.
Yep.
Yada yada.
Yeah,
injected with things, heads beaten with baseball bats, all that fun stuff. But Higurashi no Naku Kuroni is one of those shows that has a very big payoff if you stick with it.
Because it's a mystery, right?
It is a mystery because Higurashi, I'm just going to call it Higurashi because saying the whole title is killing me. But Higurashi starts out in a very Groundhog Day-esque fashion where basically when everybody dies or some specific event happens that I'm not going to ruin for everyone, but You find out, I believe it is in season 2 or the end of season 1. I haven't watched this show in a long time. I'm going to rewatch it soon because I bought the entire series on DVD because I love it. Basically, there is a reason for these events that are happening, and when you find out what's actually going on, it's like, oh shit, what the heck? And then you've got to say, oh, how are you going to fix this then? Because, of course, nobody wants all of their friends to die.
Right.
So basically it becomes one of those very interesting things where it starts out as just kind of a Groundhog Day ripoff and then becomes something very in and of its own. And that's one of the reasons I love it so much. And it made it possible for me to sit through all of that gore. ReZero was another example of that. Which I believe John mentioned earlier. I think. I can't remember.
With Rem.
Well, it's not even just with Rem. If you think about it, there's plenty of gore in that show.
All right.
The whole purpose of the show is that the main character dies in horrible ways. There are times where his fingers literally fall off. Or he gets decapitated, or his arm gets lobbed off, or... And it's not like they censored it.
Nah.
No, they actually didn't really censor it at all, even with the TV broadcast. They were quite graphic with some of the gore that happened in that series, but I was absolutely fine watching it. Though, that being said, a recent thing that I've seen, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before actually, that did make me cringe and look away for a moment and like go, ooh, okay, ow. Thankfully it was short-lived and only one scene was Onihei. There's a very brutal torture scene in episode 1 that, once again, be warned, it is there. Thankfully it's only been in episode 1 so far. Or as far as I've gotten, I have to admit I have fallen behind. I've only seen up to episode 4 of that so far. Need to catch up. Really do need to catch up on that. But in the first 4 episodes, there's only this one torture scene, and it is brutal, but yeah, beyond that, it's been... Even the fight scenes haven't really had that much gore in there, and they are swinging swords around.
Do you think that violence in anime is something that sells just as well as fan service in anime does? Do you think people are putting it in there just for the heck of it, or do you think that, like fan service, there are times where it's appropriate and there are times where it's not?
I believe the latter, really. I believe it depends on your setting, because, like, I haven't come up... while you guys have been talking, I have 2 examples of shows with gore that I actually think that I'm okay with, but it depends on the setting, or, like, the justification for the gore, really. I mean, like, 2 examples here. We have 2 interesting extremes here. We have Berserk, the Golden Age arc, most specifically, because that's the one I've only really seen, where you have, like, this fantasy world with demons, and it gets dark, and I mean real dark. People die, there's blood, people get killed, there are demons, people just get eaten.
I think you said demons twice.
Well, I gotta emphasize it. And then another example, Psychopaths, that's got some pretty gore in there too. Not like people are... Well, okay, there probably is, but I meant more specifically with the fact that people can get destroyed by the Dominators, because they take that to extremes. And it's unique in the fact that that's a psychological sort of thing, rather than cutthroat, just like people killing each other with, like, swords and whatnot. But I still appreciate those, despite the settings and the weird oddities with it. Same with, like, this is an anime, but, like, Game of Thrones, that's cutthroat and violent as all hell, but it's still cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it'd be very odd to be watching something like, I don't know, trying to watch something like Canon or Clannad, and then someone suddenly gets a limb chopped off, and it's just, why? Out of place?
And then
Thankfully, that doesn't actually happen in those series. I'm just saying weird. How out of place that would be.
And then suddenly Ron Burgundy comes out and says, "Wow, that escalated really quickly. That got really out of hand. Rick killed a guy."
That would have been terrible. It's like, people are dancing in canon, and then everybody starts losing their limbs. That'd be terrible.
You're dead. You're dead. You're dead, and you're dead.
Canon does have a girl swinging a sword.
Yeah, but she never lops anybody's limbs off, though.
No, she tears her clothing.
Of course she does. It's anime. Of course she tears her clothes. I'm kidding. It's not that bad. It's not that fan servicey.
Even then, yes.
But I mean, I personally am on the other side of the argument. I think that sometimes they do put action. No, not too much. I believe there are times where they put violence in a show just for violence sake. I think that happens in anime plenty.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
I think sometimes people put violence and action in a show just to have it there. I think it's just like fan service, where there are moments where fan service is tasteful or utilized in a way that makes it funny, or tips it on its head, or is very, I don't know, just a little bit of fan service to the point where it's subtle. But there are other times where there's so much fan service that you're like rolling your eyes, or it becomes the entire purpose of the show, and not in a good way like Keijo, like we spoke last time, but in a way like shows where that's all it is girls getting their titties exposed, and that's the audience they're going to. And that's fine if that's what you're into, but I think that it's only there for that sake, to, titilize.
I see what you did there.
Or tantalize those who are watching. And I think the same could be said for action and gore. I mean, for example, Drifters is a show you guys are going to be talking about today. And one of the things that I hear people say is this show is just a gore and action fest. I haven't watched it, but that's something that I'm intrigued to hear what you guys say. A lot of shonen gets the whole, this is just... here's just some gore and action power-up scenes just to have it there.
Mm-hmm.
Or, because, if you take Higurashi, for example, if you watch the first season and only the first season, you're going to think it's gore just for the sake of gore, too. But if you actually watch the rest of it, you'll realize it was there for a purpose. But I believe there's plenty of anime where it's like, we're going to go and put in this guy getting his head chopped off because somebody will buy the Blu-ray. I think that is actually a thing.
What do you think, do you think, Fate Zero is gory or whatnot?
I don't think that Fate Zero is gore for the sake of gore. There are moments that there are scenes that are a little disturbing, but I don't even know if Fate Zero got to the point... Oh wait, never mind, it did. There were some scenes that were really disturbing, especially if you watch the Blu-rays. I wouldn't... Yeah, dead children. I wouldn't recommend anybody who's faint of heart watching Fate Zero, but I feel like Fate Zero, again, is not one of those shows where gore is there for the sake of gore.
No, it's just like a backdrop sort of thing.
It's like, this is how cruel these people can be.
How sadistic people are.
And then you got things like Corpse Party, like John mentioned, that I have dipped my toe into because I was curious, and then immediately regretted everything. That is one of the few sources of media that has actually made me actively vomit. I can't handle it. And normally I can. I'm like John when it comes to, if I watch something in live action... Unless it's Game of Thrones, where I've basically been desensitized at this point. But if I watch live action, horror, or anything like that, where people are getting their limbs cut off, or people are being murdered, I can't handle it. It just makes me feel sick. But if I watch it in anime most of the time, I can make that disconnect that, this is a fantasy. This isn't really happening. And in most time, in a lot of cases, it looks very cartoony, too, when people get killed. But in some cases, it's very, very well executed. Like in Fate Zero, when people died, you felt an intense response to it.
Yeah.
When you saw that gore, it was actually disturbing, but not in a way that's going to make you vomit. And then you got things where, like Corpse Party, where it's just people, you see their insides and shit. It's just not, it's not my cup of tea.
Cass, you watched a show called Another, and I
well, that show's garbage to begin with.
Is it garbage? Because I remember you making this.
It's awful. It's an awful show.
Okay.
It's entertaining, which
right.
I feel like that's another thing that we should put out there. That I say that I dislike fan service shows, but I can see why they're entertaining.
Yeah.
And I dislike a lot of very super gory shows for the sake of being gory, but I can see why they're entertaining. And there's a difference between good and entertaining, in my opinion. Like last week, Keijo, the reason why it only got a 3 from me is because it's not good. It's dumb and silly. But that's what it's meant to be. And that makes it entertaining.
Comfort food.
Yeah.
And I believe that Another is another one of those things. Ha ha! I didn't do that on purpose. Another was another. I can't stop. Make it stop.
Another.
Another was a additional. There we go. Example of a show that had a lot of gore in it, and it tried to have a purpose, but it was a bad adaptation.
Oh, okay.
So it ended up just being kind of entertaining to watch these idiots fall off the face of the earth one after another.
I just remember one of them falling and being, like, piercing their neck with an umbrella, and I thought to myself...
Spoilers, jeez.
Was that actually a spoiler?
I mean...
Well, I guess to one person dying.
I think it happens in episode 1.
I don't think it happens in episode 1. It was in, like, 2 or 3 or something. But anyway...
Yeah, it's close.
Anyway,
I do agree with you, though.
People die in gruesome ways in that show, but I was never, like, sickened by how people died. If anything, some people died, and I actually kind of snorted, because I was like, that's hilarious. I mean, that makes me sound like an awful person, but...
Cass, you're so awful. Why don't you care about the fictionalized characters?
I mean, hey, there are some characters that are fictionalized that I care about a lot.
Cat. I mean, it's just like Game of Thrones. You can count all the bodies that die in those book series and the TV series. That being said, I don't think, obviously, Psychopaths you said you were very disturbed by, and Berserk, I don't know if either of you would ever touch.
I don't really care to watch Berserk because it's not my cup of tea.
Nah.
And I wasn't disturbed by the gore in...
the situation. Yeah,
that was the situation and how it was framed.
Yeah.
And, God, the show just slipped from my brain. You just said it. Psychopaths. There we go. Yeah, like Psychopaths, I got turned off, and it wasn't because of the gore or the action or anything like that. It was just how a certain situation was framed, and I was very sensitive about it. But whatever. That's my own problem. But
I recommend if you ever watch that, you go past, like, to skip episode 1 at that point then. But
there is actually...
No, I was just going to say, I do agree with you, though, Cass. Violence does sell. I mean, it's... From what I gather, and I can't say with 100% certainty on it, but I think Japan is, with its violence in video games, I don't think it's very prone to it, versus fan service and sex, whereas Japan views the West as just more like, you guys put your violence in your video games, but... we're going to censor the video games for the fan service. That's a whole different thing. But, yeah. Violent video games in Japan aren't a thing, for whatever reason, from what I gather.
Yeah, a lot of violence in video games gets censored to all hell. I've been watching a channel about censored gaming lately because of... It just...
Fascinating.
I came across it by chance, and it ended up being quite interesting to watch. There's a scene in the latest Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 7.
Where you open a fridge, and there's a severed head inside it.
I do recall that.
But in the Japanese version, it's a photo.
Huh!
They replaced the whole head with a photo instead.
I know it. That's interesting.
They really don't like decapitation in their video games.
Decapitation's bad.
And you have games like For Honor where you can decapitate people all the time.
Cass, did you quick aside, did you shove people off walls to kill them?
On accident a couple of times.
Nice. That's the ultimate way.
I remember when Pete was teaching me how to play, and he was trying to teach me how to do a move, like a specific move. I think it was because I was playing Peacekeeper. He was an assassin type, and you can grab your opponents and then stab them if you hit a button repetitively. And I grabbed him, but I did a normal grab, and I threw him off the cliff. And he was like, wow, Cass, really? And I was like, I didn't mean to. I don't know my own power.
You have untapped potential, young Padawan.
it was.
You are the chosen one.
It's so easy to do the wrong thing in For Honor, but we're not talking about For Honor. We're talking about anime. But
yeah, I was about to try and get it back.
I want an anime of For Honor.
I mean, I think that we have basically beaten this into the ground at this point. That, like, again, with fan service, it all comes down to your cup of tea. But it is definitely, it's definitely present in anime that sometimes gore is just thrown in there for gore's sake. And whether that's a good or a bad thing is really up to you personally. I'm not a big fan of it, but...
Unless it has a justification to it, right?
I mean, I would prefer that. I've never watched anything where it was gore for gore's sake and then just immediately loved it. Even with Higurashi, I didn't love that show until they actually started throwing in the plot and why all of these murders and terrible things were happening.
So, how did you get to season 2? Like, did you keep telling yourself, man, there's gotta be a justification for all of this, like, Groundhog Day event and the fact that they're killing each other?
They have a bunch of, like, very... I don't want to get super into it because then I'm going to ruin the show.
Oh, okay. Fair point.
But I got through season 1 because they have hints to what's going to be going on towards the end of season and into season 2 throughout the show itself, and that's the bonds between those friends.
The greater mystery, as it were.
Exactly. Like, they have a very good build-up, and I don't think that there's a lot of people who can really deny that. Especially because even though there is all this gore going on, in every single arc, there are little hints to what's going on. Because the same events happen over and over again, which is why people compare it to Groundhog Day.
Right.
And you'll notice, like, little things going on in the background or with specific characters. And each arc, they basically switch to a different character almost. And you learn more about them and how they're interacting with this circle. And basically, it comes to a conclusion at the end that something is going on here in every single timeline that's causing these events to occur.
Yep.
That builds you up to wanting to know what the fuck is going on. And then when they finally deliver on what that is, it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool and inventive. And I didn't think you would go that way. Cool beans. I like it.
Gotcha.
So, Higurashi's a good show. Not a lot of people like it, and that's okay. Yeah. And then some people love it, like me, and that's cool.
I have been meaning to watch it more lately because I was trying to avoid it like the plague for a long time because I didn't think it'd be something I enjoy, but recently there's been things that have been making me kind of want to check it out. One being the Higurashi Abridged series that you showed me episode 1 of.
Get fucked, Keiichi.
But yeah, that actually made me interested. There is actually one other thing I want to say about violence in anime, and like, again, for the most part, I'm okay with violence, but it also kind of depends on the type of violence, and there are different kinds of violence. There's like just beating the crap out of someone for the sake of beating the crap out of someone, which, okay, fair enough. There's visually violent that has gore, and then there's other violent acts that can really touch on nerves of people. There is one such scene in Drifters, but I'll save that for the spoilers. Because it caught me off guard, and I was like, oh, fuck.
I'm very curious, because I don't actually remember what you're talking about, to be quite honest.
Dun dun dun. Well, maybe this would be a good turnover for you to talk more about that.
Oh, you're right.
What do you say, hostess with the mostess? Because you're a girl now.
I'll also say one other type of gore, like one more, just quick drop mention of a violent show. Parasite, the Maximum. That show is fucking violent. Also disturbing. Again, it all boils down to cup of tea, because I actually thought that show is actually very well written, but it's fucked up on many levels.
I can't watch that show.
Yeah, I don't. It's another one that I don't think I'll be able to watch.
Body horror.
It's body horror, but also, like, if you look past that fucked up aspect, it's also like it's like a character study and how a character kind of loses his humanity and just thinks more logically about everything. It's fucked up. It's kind of like Ajin, too.
I mean, it's kind of hard to look past a dog's face melting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I get you. That was fucked up.
And then people and their bodies being... I mean, that's another... Like, for example, that's what made me basically, like, actually vomit while reading Corpse Party.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has their limits, and mine stops at body horror.
Yeah. Fair enough.
You could chop people's heads off for days in anime, and I'll be like, okay, that's a thing. But as soon as you start splitting their fingers in half, or twisting their bodies in morbid directions, I'm like, nope, out, bye, see you later.
And they become razor blades, and you're just like, what the fuck?
And I mean, they couldn't even leave animals out of it in Parasite. They had to have dogs' faces melt. Ugh, God, why?
Yeah, that was kind of fucked up. I will say they only had the one, so that was a thing.
Just leave animals alone. They're innocent.
Leave animals alone.
Animal cruelty in anime. Next topic.
PETA man will save the animals.
Oh my god.
Even the fictional ones, they will save all the Pokemon.
Why is it always dogs too? Like,
why is it never cats?
Dogs. No, I mean, think about it. Like, in most of anime where they violate, like, or destroy an animal or kill an animal to, like, either make the owner upset or to make a point or just to be a dick, it's always a dog. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Elfen Lied.
Yeah, I just remembered Elfen Lied.
Or Lied, or Blade, or however you want to pronounce it. Or, I mean...
Lied, or whatever. I don't know. I've always said Elfen Lied. I don't know what the official...
I guess it's...
pronunciation of it.
Anyway, point of the matter is I can't handle animals. Okay, there's another line. I can't handle when animals are brutalized in shows.
Yeah.
And to the extent it can actually turn me off of a show entirely.
I was just about to say, I don't know the exact reasoning, but maybe they utilize dogs because they're loyal and they essentially will not leave their owner. Whereas if you get a cat, it's not guaranteed that the cat will, like, be with the owner at all 24/7. They'll just kind of run and do their own shit. I mean, even in John Wick, that's the whole premise of the movie is they kill his dog. Theon Greyjoy kills his dog and steals his car, so John Wick goes on a killing rampage in order to get
don't spoil it.
No, it's in the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, he's in it's I don't know.
But I mean, I wouldn't say that they're not painting cats as loyal creatures. There's plenty of heartfelt shows. I mean, She and Her Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Cheese Sweet Home.
Like, Cheese Sweet Life.
There's plenty of cute cats in anime, so I think that's not necessarily a fair assumption.
Okay.
It's just that cats aren't being brutalized, which I guess I'm happy about.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just like, why are you only being so mean to dogs? I mean, I'm not a dog person, but I get sad when a puppy gets slaughtered. Jesus Christ.
I like puppers.
But anyway, I'm going to let you guys talk about Drifters now. I've been trying to subtly leave over and over, and you guys keep pulling me back. And
why do you want us to? Why do you want to leave?
I need to make cupcakes, and you know that. And both of you just keep saying, "Oh, but I have this other thing. Oh, but I have this other thing." And we've already almost gone 10 minutes over time as is. So you guys are being rude. Rude. No, it's good. It's good discussion, but I really gotta go.
All right. Peace out, Cass.
Alright.
Bye-bye. Enjoy making your cupcakes.
Enjoy talking about Drifters. Enjoy me not slowly and subtly steering conversation. I'm excited to see how this goes.
It's gonna be I was about to say, it's gonna fall apart. We're going to kill each other, and then the podcast will just continue on forever in infinite silence.
Well, that's unfortunate. Like, as soon as I leave, it's just silence for the next hour. That's awk. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, whoever's listening, and whoever might be listening in the future, and also thank you guys for showing up today and dealing with me being really crabby and tired and sick.
It's okay. It's okay. We didn't hurt each other. Things didn't get violent. We didn't dismember each other. So we came out on top, I feel.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Yeah.
Peace.
All right. Bye-bye. So yeah,
I was about to say. So now what? What do we do from here? Where do we go? in this infinite world. We're free of the producer/seducer.
Nobody telling us what to do anymore.
We could do anything we want.
We could take over the world.
That's right, Pinky.
One small village at a
That's
time.
right, Pinky. One village at a time.
We shall start by liberating the elves.
I like... Oh, that's clever. I like what you did there.
Actually, there was one other thing I was going to say about violent anime is that I have been watching so much violent anime lately. I went from watching Kenshin, which is kind of violent but not gory, to watching Dead Man Wonderland, to watching Drifters.
Yo, dog, what you need to do is you need the desensitization pack. You need to watch Berserk, you need to watch Psychopaths, you need to watch Akira, and you know what, just for good measure, throw in Parasite and some Elfen Lied, and then once you come out on top of it, you'll be like the main character in Parasite and be like, I feel nothing. What's wrong with me? Am I human? Or am I a parasite? I can't cry. Again, I can't emphasize enough. That's what drove me through that show. But we're not here to talk about Parasite. Maybe one day me and you could talk about that. But we're here to talk about Drifters. Joestar, break it down. What do we got?
So, the synopsis of Drifters goes... Shimazu Toyohisa, whilst involved at the Battle of Sekigahara, manages to mortally wound Naomasa. Sorry, there's a lot of not even just Japanese names. There's lots of foreign names in this series, and I am going to butcher reading these so badly. Naomasa, but is critically wounded in the process. As he walks from the field, broken and bleeding, Toyohisa finds himself transported to a corridor of doors, where a bespectacled man at a desk waits for him. This man, Murasaki, sends Toyohisa into the nearest door, where he wakes up in another world. There, Toyohisa meets other great warriors like him who have been transported as well, to be part of a group known as Drifters.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, much like the Fate Stay Night series franchise, this series features a lot of historical figures from history, all gathered together, thrown into this alternate world, and just sort of seen
Battle Royale.
Kind of like a battle royale. Not exactly battle royale, because it's not like they're all against each other, which is what I was misled. I thought it was suddenly going to be Toyohisa versus everyone else. Right. But it's not. It's actually two sides. You've got the Drifters and you've got the End.
Yep.
And they are two different groups. That being said, not all the Drifters exactly get along.
No, they don't.
At least not straight away. There's no... It kind of works out that they do all end up generally working in the same direction, or trying to make their own way towards towards the same goal. But yeah, there's no instant we are all brothers in arms and comrades. No. It's just well, it's it ends up working out that way, but there's nothing stopping them from going, I don't like you, I'm gonna kick your ass.
Well, it's interesting because, let's rewind a little bit here. Let's break it down even further, distill it. Who's the production company and what gems have they done?
The studio is on my anime list is saying it's Hood's Drifters Studio.
Yes.
Therefore, is saying it's just Drifters that they've done.
But upon further inspection into this, I looked this up. Hood's Drifters Studio is a subgroup within Hood's Entertainment, which Hood's Entertainment have done other stuff as well.
Because it certainly looks like the exact same art style and animation from Hellsing Ultimate, which makes sense because I believe Drifters was written by the same author.
Same mangaka.
From the manga of... Same mangaka behind Hellsing, so that makes sense, but if it's a completely different animation studio, then... it's interesting that they both ended up doing the same art style. That was what I was doing.
Yeah, for sure. According to what I'm looking here, Hood's Entertainment has done some interesting shows. One of them being Mysterious Girlfriend X, another of them being some more lewd content like hentai, one of them being Aki Sora. So take it with a grain of salt. This is really interesting. I cannot confirm or deny if they worked on Hellsing OG Hellsing or Hellsing Ultimate. I'd have to go back and double check that. I don't believe so.
This page that I've brought up isn't listing any of the Hellsing animes.
Okay.
It's listing BlazBlue.
Oh, After Memories, or Alter Memories, right?
Yeah, BlazBlue, Alter Memories.
Yeah, okay, there you go. But besides that, so back to the Drifters, these guys, like you tried to draw comparisons to the Fate series with the champions summoned to this alternate world by forces unknown to essentially come together and somewhat fight. I mean, like you said, it's the Drifters versus the Ends. But you learn that the Drifters aren't all noble spirits or something, because one of them is Oda Nobunaga, which in Japanese history is kind of an asshole and a dictator and viewed as evil. So again, these people aren't they're not
Oda
saints.
Nobunaga, the demon.
Yep, they ain't saints.
These guys, they're not exactly... Their moral compasses don't necessarily point north.
No. But from what I gather, and here's let's try and we're kind of blurring the lines between characters and what we thought of the story as a whole. I like the Drifters because despite being kind of dickish and like prideful and headstrong, they have a sense of justice. The point of this is they're trying to overtake the Orda Empire, which, fun fact, was led by Adolf Hitler.
Was founded.
Yep.
Yeah, it was founded by a drifter who was Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Which, if you want a good example of not all the drifters are good people, Adolf Hitler was one of the drifters. He had already committed suicide by the time that series actually starts, so we don't actually see him. We just find a big painting of him, and they say, oh, he's the father that founded the Old Empire. And again, he, much like with Germany, he actually did do it for justifiable reasons, but he's an evil asshole and did all sorts of evil things to people that he considered others. And you see that again in Drifters. Like the founding reasons why he formed the Oda Empire, when you find out about them, they were good, noble reasons. But
it went sideways.
It went sideways, and also involved subjugating
the elves and the dwarves and
the elves, dwarves, and any non-human race.
Yeah, and it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
So then where does the Ends fall in line? Are they a part of the Orda Empire as well? Because from what I gather, they were a third entity into this, and they were just like, their sole purpose was to essentially destroy the world that they were put on, and they were going to kill the Ends, or not the Ends, the Drifters, as it were.
It sounds like that there have been multiple waves of the End.
Yeah.
Each with a different Dark King.
Ah.
And this is what I've gathered from watching it. It sounds like the latest Dark King has been different to the previous ones.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, the End, the people summoned to be part of the End, are people with deep resentment
of
humanity and life in general, and just want it all to
burn
and go to hell, and want to just end everything because life was
cruel to them.
Their lives was cruel and involved a lot of suffering, so they're going to get their one-uppance and make everyone suffer in their place. For example, one of the members of the Ends is Joan of Arc.
Yep.
And she was recruited for the Ends while she was being burned alive at the stake.
Yep.
Even though she had fought for Paris, for God, she was branded a witch and burned at the stake after they were done with her. After she'd fulfilled her purpose, they burned her alive. And that turned into resentment for everything, and also members of the End, their deep hatred seems to end up manifested into superpowers, whereas drifters are just, they are whoever they are. They are badasses.
Yep. They rely more on physical means, whereas the Ends use magical means. Joan of Arc utilizes fire, whereas like the drifters will utilize gunpowder, swords. Again, it's the contrast of, despite them being less so the drifters in real life, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, those famous icons are like... They were like smugglers, if I recall. Oda Nobunaga, kind of a dick, but at the same time, they were prideful men, essentially, who were noble. And the Ends just want to fucking burn everything down with their crazy-ass magic.
There's also actually one other thing I want to say about Oda Nobunaga. Historically speaking, he was actually a very key figure in unifying Japan to become the country that we know it of as today, which is why you hear, like, of all the Japanese figures that appear in Drifters, Oda Nobunaga is one that you probably have encountered in other, or you've probably heard his name a number of times already from other anime. Yep. And that's not a coincidence. He's effectively become like King Arthur for the West, for Japan.
Yeah, for the East. Although he was probably not nearly as beloved.
No, probably not nearly as beloved or as well looked up to. No. But much like how King Arthur was credited for bringing Britain out of the Dark Ages, Oda Nobunaga was very key in unifying Japan and bringing it out of the feudal ages. Ultimately, he wasn't the one that actually succeeded in unifying Japan, but he laid a lot of the groundwork, from what I understand, through his evil, fucked up, and twisted ways, but still,
legit,
he's the one that actually got the job done for the most part.
So we talked about the Order Empire a little bit, we talked about the Drifters, and we talked about the Ends. What is the plot, and how does violence tie into this? Because spoiler alert, from what I recall, this aired back last holiday season, ran for 12 episodes. The plot was pretty thin. It was an action show in the sense where it's just like Toyohisa, the main protagonist, our avatar, was just, or rather, the person we can get behind the most is, I'm a man, and women should not be doing this because, he's prideful. He doesn't want to have women and children fight, and he sees the subjugation of the elves and the dwarves, and he's just like, that's wrong. I don't want to see this. The men who did this shall die. I will behead them myself in honorable fashion. And it was just that. He was badass with the sword. He dismembered people. It was action-y, and he was like... It was pretty gory. The way he died, he was filled up with spears, and he was walking it off like a champ. And I was like, this is actually pretty cool. This is actually pretty dope.
Don't you run away from me. Leave your head here.
Yeah, pretty much. He always wanted the enemy's head as a trophy.
Yeah, the general, or the whoever was in charge of that group, he would figure out who it was that was in charge of, whether it was that squad or that keep or whatever, and he was like, yours is the head that I want to collect. And as he was taking out enemies, he generally aims for the neck. Just behead them, because it's a quick and easy way. But there is another thing about him. He isn't just violent. He always buries the head, prays, and gives offerings to them. He is respectful to those he kills. He does offer his respects to them. The rest of the body can be fucked. They use it to make more black powder. They use the bodies to make more
essentially
black
use them for fertilizer.
But the head is where they view as the mind, the soul, where the person that deserves the respect resides within their head. Which I can understand.
Wasn't it like, didn't one of the side characters, the big booby lady, which, quick aside, the comedy in the show is kind of stupid, like not very good. But she goes up to Toehisa and she's like, "Why are you doing that? Why do they deserve that?" And he's like, "They can get, despite them being scum in life, they can make up for it in the afterlife, essentially."
She was asking why they were throwing the bodies into piles of shit, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That they had gathered. Why were they being so disrespectful to the
bodies?
The bodies, and he said, "Well, when you think about it, you open them up, they're going to be full of shit. Eventually, even if you bury them, the bodies are just going to decompose and get eaten by bugs as fertilizer. We're just speeding up the process."
Mm-hmm.
It's the head. The head is where it contains the spirit, the man that deserves the respect for what they were
before they became awful human beings.
So we've buried the heads, and we've offered our prayers and respects to the heads. So what more do you want? And that was it. Yeah. That was the end of the discussion. And while she was still like, you shouldn't desecrate a dead person's body, she was willing to accept their ideals, their beliefs are completely different to mine. So there's not really anything I can do to stop them.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
did you find the?
But also, we've mentioned the booby lady, but we haven't actually mentioned the Octoberists at all.
Oh, right.
The Octoberists are actually a organization of magicians or wizards who actively seek out the various drifters and
essentially act as support.
They're the ones that actually explain to them about the ends. They are an anti-ends organization, and they're the ones trying to get all of the drifters together, lead them to combat against the ends. Yep. And is actually led by a drifter themselves.
Yeah, famous Japanese figure.
Abe no Seimei, who was a monk.
Oh, right, yeah, Abe no Seimei.
I believe.
I do believe so, yes.
He actually names himself something else in the series, because he believes he doesn't deserve the title of Seimei. But I can't actually find what he introduces himself as. It's Oda Nobunaga who goes, "Wait, no, you're Abe no Seimei. This is Abe no Seimei," and gets really excited about knowing him.
Well, either way, it's how they address him in the show. They just call him Abe no Seimei.
Yeah. After Oda Nobunaga
pretty much
figures it out, they all just call him Abe no Seimei anyway.
So we got the plot, and we got our intelligence agency. We got our boys fighting the bad guys, and we're liberating this fantasy world. We're liberating the races from the Order Empire while fighting the ends, ultimately about to fight the ends.
Yeah.
What did you think of the action and the violence to this? Was this gritty? Did you feel disturbed by it? Or do you feel as though it was much like Keijo last week, where it was high action and essentially like you were into it because it was kind of self-aware of the fact that, yeah, it's kind of dumb.
Much like Keijo, yeah, I went into this knowing that I had previously watched Hellsing Ultimate and came to actually kind of enjoy high violence of Hellsing Ultimate, and so I went in knowing that this was going to be effectively more of the same because it's the same author.
Yes, batshit crazy characters and batshit crazy like antics and violence, or action rather. Yeah. See, it's interesting.
I came in knowing that, and that was therefore kind of what I wanted from the series, and I was not disappointed. There was one bit which, admittedly, having already seen Hellsing Ultimate, there was one scene from Hellsing Ultimate that I had actually forgotten about, and when it happened in Hellsing Ultimate, it was okay, that's a bit much scene, and when the similar scene came up in Drifters, I had the exact same reaction, and I was like, okay, I should have seen that coming. By all means, how this particular scene...
I was about to say, do you want to save that for the spoiler section? I was about to say, you want to save that?
Yeah, I'm going to save specifically what scene I'm talking about for the spoiler section. Okay. But I should have seen it coming. If you've seen Hellsing and haven't seen Drifters yet, just
Be forewarned.
As the series progresses, think about what's going on and just prepare yourself for anything.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say on that matter, outside of spoilers. That was the only bit where it was like, okay, that was a bit much for me. But at the same time, within the setting and everything else going on, it made sense.
Right.
It wasn't... While the fact that they included it probably was a bit for the shock value, it wasn't out of place. So within the setting, it made sense that was going on. As uncomfortable as it made me feel.
What did you think outside of this shock factor? Like, despite that, it sounded like you enjoyed yourself with this show.
I really, again, just that one particular scene made me uncomfortable. The rest of it, I really loved. Yeah. There were bits that I laughed at, even with how dumb the humor was.
The humor was kind of very like...
The humor was a bit but there were still moments that made me laugh.
I guess it's the antics and the bickering of the drifters that was just like, what?
Mostly the bickering amongst the drifters that was just finding amusing, because, like, yeah, these two would be butting heads.
No, I mean...
the way that they're
prideful.
The way that the two...
They're prideful men.
They're prideful, and they didn't want to admit that, no, I actually really look up to you, but you were my enemy, so fuck you.
Pretty much.
And also the interactions between Toyohisa and Nobunaga. Yep. The fact that they had that moment was like, they had a moment where they sort of looked at each other, and Nobunaga sort of, he didn't say anything, but you could tell. Well, he said stuff. He didn't specifically say it, but it was like, my son would be around about your age.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Toyohisa had a similar thought of, my dad would be about his age. And they sort of also realised that was what the other was thinking, and decided to poke fun at each other. It was like,
yep.
I'm not your dad. You're not my father. Fuck you.
Pretty much. And the archer, the group, the pretty boy, kind of like serves as like the rock in between that, and just pokes fun at both of them.
Nasu Suketaka Yoichi.
Yeah, they just call him Yoichi.
He's like 400 years older than the rest of them. Like, you two, like, even the bit where they were like, 15 years difference to you? Pathetic.
Yeah.
400 years. Fuck you.
Yeah, legit.
He's also the youngest.
The youngest looking.
He's also the youngest of the three. I think he's the youngest of the drifters in the all.
I believe.
I
believe so. What did you think of the production? I thought this, when it comes to like animation, the fluidity, sound, I thought the animation and the fluidity was clean. I thought the music was okay. It served its purpose. Not as bad as Keijo, if we're going to use a metric here in comparison. But I thought that the opening, catchy as hell.
The opening has been stuck in my head all day.
Very good.
Na 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 na.
Na 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 na.
But yeah, the music served its purpose. Again, nothing... I say nothing particularly memorable.
Yeah.
There was this one bit that I kept on noticing, and it was like, is that really what I was thinking? There's like there's one particular track that they use a lot.
When they escalate
into
battle or whatnot?
In this particular track, I don't know what song it is. It's a piece of classical music. They have just this tiny little bit from it, and then I'm trying to think of what it is. I can't remember for the life of me where it is, and it always caught me off guard every time I heard it. I was like, why is that in there? And
the opening song, for those listeners at home who want to like tune in to listen to it, it's Gospel of the Throttle by Minutes Till Midnight. So again, Gospel to Throttle by Minutes Till Midnight. Very good, catchy. The animation that corresponds with it is also pretty stylized. It's like got this like hard edge, like manga-esque sort of style, kind of scratchy. but it's also very clean.
It seems to it goes back and forth between what looks like hand-drawn, penciled flick book.
Yep.
Which looks really cool, to a style of animation that looks like it would come from a visual novel intro, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, with a lot of mosaics and whatnot.
It like a still image, but it's got animation, like a sort of like transformative animation to it. I don't know how to describe it. Haven't done animation or played with animation tools.
Right.
It basically is when you've taken a still image and you kind of like tell it to distort in a certain way that doesn't look like a distortion. It just makes it look like this otherwise still image is actually moving. And you actually see it a lot when it comes to visual novel intros.
Right.
Especially more modern ones. But it goes back and forth between these two things. And it looks really cool. It is really well done.
Yeah, very striking.
I love the intro. Although on the subject of the intro, there was one thing that bugged me about it. And that's not so much a fault. It's kind of a fault with the intro, kind of a fault with the series itself. Why the hell was Tamon Yamaguchi, the admiral of the big ship, in the intro so prominently when he's only appears in like 2 scenes and never says a fucking word?
Season 2. It should be noted. That this show has been greenlit for season 2. So.
Oh yeah, there is that. It has been greenlit for season 2, but this isn't season 2. It's season 1.
I know.
Why the fuck is he so prevalent in the opening? Are they just going to carry on with the same opening for season 2?
I have no idea.
Which I guess would make sense. Would therefore make sense. But
any closing thoughts on this, Joestar? What do we got? We're according to the timer here, we're running along pretty at a swift pace. But what is it? Honestly, I don't think I have much else to say. We have our factions, we have our heroes. They're trying to save the thing, albeit Nobunaga kind of wants to unify this world under his rule, fairly, mind you, not with fear and intimidation. But I found it enjoyable. The violence was a proponent of this, but if you read the original mangaka's work of Hellsing, then you know what you're getting yourself into. I took a chance on this. I watched it via Funimation, and I actively enjoyed it, and I just binge watched the entire show within like 2 days. Despite this, I'd probably give it a solid 3.5, only on the merits that its plot is pretty thin. It's not really too deep. You know, it's, again, a comfort food sort of thing.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you there. Yeah. It's very well done.
Yeah.
The art is consistent.
It's clean.
And it's clean. If you've seen Hellsing Ultimate, it is again the exact same art style from Hellsing Ultimate, which is the original mangaka's art style from it. Mm-hmm. It has the same sort of
crazy-looking characters with sharp teeth.
Sharp teeth. And it also, when it goes to the silly scenes, it does do that same change in art style.
It kind of reminded me of like a Full Metal Alchemist.
You can say that that's what they used to save the budget. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does kind of go like Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, where it's comedic bits, but I also agree it probably does save a little bit on the budget so they can use it for the action.
Yeah, but that's not really something to complain. That's not a negative. That's like smart use of the budget. Yeah. And again, that's how those scenes were drawn. Those scenes would probably look odd if they were drawn in the same serious looking art style as the rest of it.
That is what we call a faithful adaptation.
Yeah, it is a faithful adaptation, but it is also an unfinished adaptation.
Yep.
As we've said, it's greenlit for a season 2, and it needs a season 2 because there's a lot left unanswered.
There's a lot unanswered, and we can, I was about to say, we could just segue right into the spoiler section with, like, how we felt as though it wrapped up, essentially.
So I think I agree with you with 3.5. When the series ends, it might clear up all of the issues I've got with the plot. It might actually just end up in. With the season 2, it might boost its score.
Mm-hmm.
But as it is, while it's just season 1, it is unfinished. And pretty much all of my complaints with the series boil down to it's unfinished.
Yeah.
So,
if this was not to get greenlit, I would be more disappointed.
Yeah. The fact that it's greenlit, I am thoroughly looking forward to season 2. I will definitely be watching it when it comes out.
Word.
It was a very enjoyable ride, but if violence is definitely not your thing, especially with blood, guts, and heads flying everywhere and limbs being cut off, then don't watch.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be your thing.
I was about to say they don't go as far as like on the Richter scale of like your slice of life to berserk. It's not like, man, they're like ripping their entrails out or whatnot, but there is dismemberment. No, there is blood. People do bleed out. So I mean,
yeah, heck, the Toyohisa had been impaled by like 5 spears in episode 1.
Again, he walks it off like a champ. He just walks it off.
Yeah, he
He's too good.
Yeah, he's like, fuck this, I'm going home. And while he was wandering home, that's when he found himself in that corridor and thrown into this alternate world to be saved by elves.
All right, are we ready?
So yeah. 3.5 from me as well, I say.
All right, so it's a good solid 3.5. That's a 7 out of 10. All right, Joestar, take us on home, and then we can dish out the scene that you've talked about.
Yep, so once again, for those who are going to be leaving us now, because they don't want to be spoiled on it, because I assume you want to actually go watch the series because you haven't, then thank you for joining us. Once again, you can find us at twitter.com/theanychatbox. You can email us with anychatmail@gmail.com. Feel free to send us any thoughts and suggestions. If we've managed to intrigue you with our ramblings about this series, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts with regards to violence in anime. Once again, you can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn now, because awesome.
Options, baby, options.
Awesome. And as always, you can find us on YouTube by searching for the Anychat Box.
Yep.
Again, we don't have a solid URL for YouTube.
It's fun like that.
But what can you do?
Yep, true enough. All right.
And with that, on to our spoilers.
All right, John, dish it out. What is this scene? Because it's been a mystery throughout this entire, hour or so of talking. I need to know, because what do we got?
The scene that really shocked me, but again, makes sense for it to be
in the context of this world.
So Toyohisa and Oda Nobunaga have liberated this village of elves.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But the village is just full of men.
Yes.
Or males, rather.
Yeah.
Because all of the women, their wives and daughters, have all been kidnapped.
Yeah, taken
away.
I remember this, yeah.
To Castle Keep.
Yep.
Because there is one time in a year where elves are able to breed.
Yep.
And with that, I should have seen this coming.
Yeah.
And probably everyone listening is probably already going, oh, fuck, I know where this is going.
Yep.
I didn't think this. I was stupid watching this scene because I didn't even think. I was just mindlessly watching it, and so they go to the keep, they go to the castle, they take over the keep, and they go, okay, where are the women being kept? They're being kept in the tower. They storm the tower, they kick down the door to find all of the women bound, stripped down, with a bunch of guys still with their fucking dicks out, with them all raping the women.
Yep.
And I was like, fuck.
And that's when Toyohisa loses his shit. And
that's when Toyohisa loses his fucking shit. And was like, you're a blight on the world. You deserve no fucking mercy. To the fucking courtyard with a lot of yous.
And that's when Nobunaga decides to knock his ass out, and then Nobunaga decides to fucking kill them all.
No, Nobunaga's like, no, you're our leader. By the way, they've all decided to appoint Toyohisa as their leader.
Yep. It's interesting in that, because Nobunaga, the justification...
Nobunaga says that he'd much rather be the guy behind the scenes pulling the strings and rather being the figurehead.
Because he was backstabbed before.
It's also, that was actually a bit that made me laugh, how they tricked Toyohisa to taking the leadership role. I was like, well, you're the one that sat down. You're the one that took the seat. I was like, fuck you. But yeah, so Toyohisa was just about to issue the order to execute the lot of them when Oda Nobunaga hits him round the back of the head with the butt of a musket, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
And he was like, no, this isn't for you to do. This isn't...
You don't need to dirty your hands with this bullshit, this scum.
You don't need to dirty your hands with this. And then he issues the order to fire.
To, like, literally get them all pinned up against the wall, and then they all die, because...
Shot with arrows.
And mind you, the visual imagery in this is such that Nobunaga sometimes will be hidden behind a silhouette, and he'll only have his one eye gleaming, and he'll have a grin on his face, showing his sadistic nature, because he is no saint.
They actually do that a lot. You'll see just a single eye gleaming out.
Yep.
Not just from Oda Nobunaga. You see it from Toyohisa, and you see it a couple of times from Yoichi. It kind of shows that all of them have that
dark nature,
dark side to them. Yeah, not all of the drifters do it, but the main three definitely do. Yeah. And they quite often have this very evil-looking, mad grin on their face.
Again, it's a mangaka's art style and style in general, where he makes his characters crazy, like on the verge of, man, I don't know what this guy is gonna do. He's a wild card. I don't know if I should say he's a good guy, or he's an anti-hero, or he's just gonna like betray everyone and backstab them in their sleep.
But you still find yourself rooting for them.
Yeah, very much so. I will say, though, my only problem with this show is, like we alluded to earlier, it just ends. Toyohisa fights Joan of Arc, and does not figure out that she's a woman the entire time, and when he finds out that she is a woman...
Just as he's about to kill her, that's when he was like, wait, you're a woman.
Yeah.
I can't kill a woman.
He leaves...
That's not right.
He leaves her, and she escapes.
He leaves her unconscious in a well. Yep. And she gets rescued.
Yeah. We never... And again, this is probably what for season 2 is. We never figure out who the Black King is. We know that he is a different Black King, and he has the power to heal.
That was another thing. Unlike the other Black Kings, this one isn't interested in destroying the world. He is looking to take it over in a conquest in order to give it to the orcs and kobolds and other demi-humans.
Wasn't he wanting to make his own religion too?
Yeah, he was going to make his own religion, his own alphabet, and teach them to farm, to read, to write. He wants to make these orcs, these like pigmen, kobolds, he wants to make them civilized and them be the ones ruling the world, while they had been previously oppressed by humans and the other races of elves, dwarves, and hobbits. Although the elves, dwarves, and hobbits are currently being oppressed by the humans. So,
the Order Empire.
The Order Empire and the humans. Which is why Oda Nobunaga and Yoichi and Toyohisa have been
trying to liberate them
one by one, liberating these other races, starting with the elves, moving on to the dwarves. We haven't actually seen the hobbits yet,
no,
but they have mentioned them.
Question: were the dwarves being like? Was there? I forget. You've marathoned this, so your memory is a little bit fresher than mine. But
I finished this yesterday.
Nice. Okay.
No, I finished this morning. Rather.
Okay. Well, fair point. Were the dwarves subjugated in cruelty, much like the elves were? Like, if I recall correctly, it was just all a bunch of men that were starved, right? They were like imprisoned.
They were starved. They were imprisoned. They were starved. They were being forced to make armaments, armor and weapons for
the
Order Empire.
But they weren't good quality, if I recall correctly, because they were being starved.
They weren't good quality because they were starved and lazy.
Yeah.
And then after Toyohisa finds them, he was like, you people desperately need food. Even though they haven't finished taking over the keep, he's just like, fuck it, start cooking. People, start cooking. We need to feed them.
Again, and that's what I find appealing
but
about that
character. That also plays into how he goes about capturing the keep, though, because he then's like, we're gonna run out of food down here, and if they're still hungry, then
they'll starve.
It's you that they're gonna come after for food.
I honestly like him for that reason.
I really like Toyohisa. He's nuts, and his methods are as insane as he is, but they work. And they work on a fundamental level that you're just like, okay, it makes sense. It's not like, I'm gonna pull this victory out of my ass. It's like, no, he also trusts Nobunaga and Yoichi to pull their way and, like, pick up his slack.
Yep. It should be noted, though, I mean, since the point of contention, like, that the show isn't deep, so you won't really, unless you know these characters historically, you're not going to get no grand backstory as to who all the drifters are, who all the ends are. No. I mean, we haven't really touched upon the ends outside of Jean of Arc, but they got, like, Rasputin, they got the Black King, which is an unknown entity. We have the general who backstabbed Nobunaga, which was the Marvel Cinematic teaser trailer at the end of season 1, where it's just like, I want you to go and kill him. And the general guy, I'm spacing on his name off the top of my head, was just like, oh, it's been some time, Nobunaga. Do you recall it off the top of your head?
Yeah, I do recall that. There was also Hijikata Toshizo, who was a member of the Shinsengumi.
Yeah, that's the one that Toyohisa fought at the tail end. He was the one
that Toyohisa fought, who, he comes from a time period of Japan from after Toyohisa.
Akechi Mitsuhide, that's his name. Akechi Mitsuhide is the general that backstabbed Nobunaga. That's the tease for season 2.
Yeah, Toshizo is from the same time period that Rurouni Kenshin, when he was still the manslayer.
Yeah, it's
it's that time period.
Yeah, a lot of the Japanese, well, outside of Yoichi, really, from what I gather, is like roughly around the Senjuku Hara, like Edo, the war period, essentially.
You've got the World War II pilot, and you've got the Battleship Admiral.
And the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, too, as well. But I meant more prominently the Japanese figureheads. Also, can we talk about the Japanese warfighter for a hot minute? He only showed up for, like, 2 scenes. He killed a dragon, because dragons are alive in this world. He came in, destroyed a dragon, and disappeared. And I was like, well, I wish he was around more. Because he was in the opening a little bit more prominently.
But he also has a bigger role. He actually speaks. And
True.
We see him interact with the other heroes, and he does have a key role in that battle.
He destroys a dragon.
If he hadn't come in, if he wasn't the one taking out the dragons would have just toasted the drifters trying to get away. He was also the one that found... I
was about to say, I just remember him crashing and then him, like, becoming king, like, a la Lord of the Flies, of a group of, like, monsters or whatever. And I was like, well, that's kind of funny.
That Beastman, yeah.
Yeah. Again, I mean, this, as you said before we jumped over to this section, this is a product of...
Scipio, the Roman emperor.
Okay.
Scipio stumbled across him while he was being carried around by the Beastmen that were now worshipping their sky god.
But as I said before, this, and as you mentioned before we jumped over to this is a fun ride, albeit the plot is thin. It's just good guys versus bad guys, and the good guys are kind of like fucked up in their own right, but they also have honor.
They're quote unquote good guy.
Yeah, quote unquote loose term, but ultimately it is an unfinished product because there's a season 2. I'm hoping the season 2 actually has them kill more of the ends, because out of all of this they only killed one of the ends.
Yeah, thus far they've only actually killed the one.
Yep. Or I want to see a drifter die and them get like rallied up essentially to say, oh, we're gonna go after them essentially.
Yeah, the only drifter that's died thus far was Adolf Hitler, and that happened before the series started, and it was through suicide.
Well, technically, didn't that one guy that was best friends with the old man die as well? The lucid old man, which would always be like, "Huh? What am I doing here?" That sort of thing. You know who I'm talking about?
That was Scipio.
Oh, was it Scipio? Oh, was he? Yeah, he was alive.
The two that were biting heads all the time.
Okay, yeah.
But like, he was the one that was keeping him from
being loopy,
from being senile, and he got thrown off the carriage, and
okay, so then Scipio found
he didn't die, but Scipio wandered off and found the World War II pilot.
Okay, yeah, now I remember. Okay, so what I want to see for season 2 is I want to see all the drifters get together, and I want to see them go and just charge like Captain America: Civil War. I want them to all be in a airplane, like like an airplane lot. I don't know how they'll get there, but they'll do it. And then I want to see them all run at each other and kill each other. That's my prediction for season 2 of Drifters, right there, ladies and gentlemen.
I want to see basically more of the same, but more answers actually being given.
Oh yeah, I
want to find out more of what the driving force behind
the drifters and the ends.
The drifters and the ends. I want to find out what the deal with. Why is this Black King so different from the previous ones? Mm-hmm. What the fuck is up with Murasaki and Easy?
Yeah,
what is their beef with each other? Why are they leading the drifters and the ends to this world in the first fucking place?
Yeah, they have no explanation as to who they are. Murasaki was, as John
Murasaki is the guy with the glasses that sends all the drifters to this world. Easy is the one
is like a Lolita goth girl.
Basically,
who's
she's a Lolita goth girl who is basically the same as Murasaki, but for the ends instead.
Yep, and
she's the one recruiting the ends and sending them to the world.
So we just want more answers, essentially. Hopefully they flesh those out.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. But for what it was a pretty enjoyable thing. They just, they didn't answer anything. They liberated people, which was cool. And it was a fun, enjoyable ride.
Yep.
But it didn't really have a conclusion, per se. Hell, I don't even think they had a, we'll get you next time, ends, Lathan.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
That was actually pretty good. Good on you, man. That was actually pretty good. I like that.
Don't know why that popped in mind, but
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time, more. But yeah, that's all I really have for the spoiler section. If you have anything else.
No, I don't really have anything else to add. I think we'll just end up repeating ourselves over and over and over again if we carry on like this.
The infinite loop. All right, well then, take us home for those who've stuck with us.
All right, so thank you all for joining us. I think we have actually run a little over time, possibly.
Yeah.
I haven't actually been keeping track, but
we're on course. I'm your first mate on the ship. You're steering the course. We're not about to hit the rocks on the island, the island's bluff here, but we're about to park the ship. John, I don't want you to drive us into the. Oh, now we're the Titanic. Look what happened. Now we have to find the lifeboats.
Iceberg straight ahead. Anyway, thank you for sticking with us for our shenanigans. I hope that just the two guys being here for this episode hasn't been too much of a train wreck.
Yeah.
Or a shipwreck in this case.
Yeah, I was about to say, Cass will probably listen to this and be like, y'all be crazy.
She's like, This is why we can't have nice things.
No more guy reviews.
Not leaving you unattended ever again. Anyway, that is all we have time for. Thank you for joining us for this grand episode of the Annie Chat Box, episode 12. And with that being said, good night and goodbye. Bye-bye.
So long, farewell, I'll be to say goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. I can't get my voice that high without peaking. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. Legit cut the... I'm cutting my feed.
Bye-bye.